All right.
All right, morning, everybody. So yesterday we got down to the two dots on Kuf Daled Amud Aleph. Today's Daf Kuf Daled and Shabbos. So now actually the Rabbanan goes in a completely different direction. Speaking of letters, we're talking about writing letters, and now we have a Gemara discussing some of the nature of some of the letters. So Amar Lei Rabbanan Rabbi Shimon Levi Asu Dardiki Ha'ino Lebei Midrash Amar Milei De'afilu B'Yemei Yoshu Benun Lo Itmar. So maybe a little closer just so you guys can hear. So it says the young children of the yeshiva Bacham, they came to the base madrash, and they said things that even during the days of Yeshu Benun were not said. They were darshaning the letters, the order, the images of the letters. So Kavaseu, so Kavaseu Aleph, so it was such as what? So Aleph Beis, so in terms of the order, Aleph Beis, Aleph Bina, it means Aleph Bina, which means learn Torah, right? Lima Torah, Gimel Daled, right? Gimel Dalim to go ahead and to feed the poor. So my time Shuta carried the Gimel Lagabi Dalet, right? And we have the words written or the letters next to each other, Aleph Beis Gimel Dalet. So why is the leg of the Gimel towards the Dalet? Because it's the way of those who do chesed to run after the poor people to go ahead and give them, not like, have the poor people run after the wealthy people. Rather, the wealthy people should go ahead and go to the poor people, right? So really, the wealthy people should go ahead and buy a ticket and fly to Eretz Yisrael and be like Meshulachim, but they'll be opposite, right? They'll be going to places looking to give money, right? That should be the opposite of what goes on by us. Anyway, and and there's a fine. And then my time Pshuta carried the Dalet the Gabi Gimel. Why is the edge of the Dalet a little bit back towards the Gimel? The Batzilei Nafshi know that they should be able to be found and not have the wealth to pursue them. And my time Mahadar Ape the Dalet and Gimel. And why is the face the Dalet away from the Gimel? The Litain La Betzina, that one should go ahead and give charity Betzina. No, they should be embarrassed from. Hey Vav. Then the next two letters is Hey Vav. Zeshmos Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu. Zayin Ches Tes Yud Kaf Lamed. So and if you learn Torah and you give charity, if you do these things, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Zanos. So what is it? Zon, or the Zayin, right? He'll sustain you. V'chenos, he'll give favor. Meitiv l'cha, make good for you. V'nasin l'cha Yerusha, and the Yud, he'll give you inheritance. V'kaish l'cha Keser, the Chaf is he'll give you a Keser, a crown, le'elam haba. And then it says Mem Psucha, Mem Stuma. The mem, there is a mem that's open, as we discussed, and the mem that's closed, right? That's how we got to those things. So, Maimer, in other words, Maimer Pesuach, Maimer Sasim. There's certain things, certain limudim that should be open and revealed, and certain ones that should not necessarily be limud Torah, not be revealed. Nun kafufa, nun pshuta. Then you have a nun which is bent over, and nun which is straight. So neman kafufa, a person who's neman, a trusted person, a person who listens to Hashem, right? A person who's faithful. Sometimes he bends down, he shows humility, and sometimes he stands up. And samach ayin, samach aniyim, right? So samach ayin, now you should support the poor. Alishna achrina, another lashon siman, siman and asa b'Torah. You should make a siman. You should make signs to remember the Torah. V'kana osa, to acquire it. And pay kfufa, pay pshuta. Once again, the pay, right? The regular pay is kfufa's rounded one. The other one is straight. The one that's pay sofis. So pay, what is that for? So pepasuk pesasum. Well, sometimes the mouth should speak up, and sometimes the mouth should be quiet. And sadik ufa, the sadik shuta, the sadik which is right bent, and one that's straight down. So sadik kafu, sadik pashu. Sometimes that sadik should be bent over, and sometimes should be standing straight up to stand up for the right thing. So I hainu nemar kafu v'neman pashut. Didn't we say the same thing by neman kafu v'neman pashut, by the person who is faithful, right? So I said kfifa kfifa. So in other words, to give you, I guess, an extra bending over, an extra humility that at times one should have. In Mikan Shnas Torah, Kamagad Rosh, right? Over here we see the Torah is given to those with with fear of those who are trembling and those who put their heads down. And Kuf, and then it says Kuf is Kadosh, and the next letter is Reish, is Russia. So Kadosh and Russia. So my time of other Ape to Kuf Mereish. So why is the kuf, right, the face of the kuf, right, away from the reish? Now it really means it's referring to the reish away from the kuf, not the opposite around, but it says in the opposite lashon. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu in yachol yistakil b'rasha. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu can't look at the rasha, so it makes the reish turn away from the kuf. My time of mahadar tage the kuf l'gabe reish, And what is the reason why the little symbol at the edge goes out towards the reish? Right? If you chayzer to me, if you return back to me, I will go ahead and tie for you a crown just like me. My taima kare de kuf taluya. And why is the leg of the kuf sort of hanging down? So it says that if a person will be chayzer, right, then he'll help him go back in. There's an opening on the bottom for it to go back in. And Messiah Reish Lakish is a proof support by Reish Lakish. What does it mean for those who are late sonim, right? Those who mock and ridicule, then they will ridicule those who are poor, who are humble, right? Those people, he will yitain chen, he'll give him favor. So bali tami paiskino, a person who wants to go ahead and do bad and become tami, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will allow him to do bad. And bali tayir Messiah so, and a person wants to become pure, such a person, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will help. So therefore, the kuf is open in two places for the rasha, either from the bottom or for the top between the leg that sticks, the leg that doesn't connect. HaKadosh Baruch Hu leaves two places, for a rasha to return to the kadosh. And shin, sheker, tuf, emes. So the shin stands for sheker, and the tuf is for the tuf from emes. So my time is sheker, makravin milei, and emes mecharchi milei. What is the reason why when the word sheker, right, shin, kuf, reish, all come next to one another in the aleph base, as opposed to emes, you have the first letter, the middle letter, and the last letter. So why is that? Sheker is all together and emes is all apart. So shikra shachiach, because sheker, right, lies and dishonesty is common found, and therefore it's all next to each other. However, kusha lo shachiach, kusha emes, right, is not common, therefore it's not all found in one another. My time is shikra achte kare kai. What's the reason why sheker, each one of the shin, kuf, and the reish are each on one point? In other words, a letter, there's only one little point to the bottom of the letter, as opposed to the aleph, mem, and saf of ms, right? The aleph stands on two legs, the mem also on two, and the saf also. So those are letters that stand on two, as opposed to shin only has, the bottom of the shin, which is 1 point, and the kuf and the reish. What's the reason? Kushta kai shikalakai. Because MS stands. MS stands, therefore this is what to stand on. It has two legs to stand on, as opposed to sheker, as opposed to lies, things that are not the truth, that does not stand. Fine. Now the Gemara is going to go ahead and darshan letters. First, we're going to discuss atbash. Right? Atbash is basically the first letter and the last letter, then the second letter and the second to last letter, and then all right, so we'll do that first. So atbash. So what's atbash? So oisi tev esavelo, right? So he says, right, a person, right? Oisi, he left me. Shall I go ahead and desire him? And bash be like chashak shmi yacholav. A person doesn't, he doesn't yearn for me, right? Should I go ahead and rest upon him? And then the next one is ger gufa time arachim alav, right? He's matame his body. Should I go ahead and have mercy upon him? So then it says duck. Right? So he says, my doors are locked, right? Should I not cut it down? So and all these things are basically, a person does bad, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will not do well. And ad kan midas v'shayim. That is the midah of Rishayim. However, aval midas tzadikim, the midas tzadikim asbash imata bosh, right? The adbash stands for imata bosh, right? Ger dak. Imata Isa Kain Gur Baduk, right? If you go ahead and you are embarrassed, right, from your I guess from your sins, then you'll Gur Baduk, you go ahead and live in the heavens. And Hatz Vaf, so Chatzitza Havi Benechalaf, right? There'll be a separation between you and anger. And then next letters are Zaya, Chas, and Tan. Right, and you won't go ahead and tremble. You won't be bothered by the satan. So that was the different midos. Now Yam Chal and Amar Sal Shal Gehel Hakadosh Baruch Hu says the Sar Shal Gehelim to Hakadosh Baruch Hu. So he says Rebbeinu Shalom Liyam Kol. Let me take them all into the sea. Let me kill them all. So now we're going to have a discussion between Hakadosh Baruch Hu and the and this what's it called and the satan. So Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, now it says Achas, Bata, and Giyaf, right? So now we're taking the first letter, then skip 7 letters and go to the 8th, and then skip another 7 letters, and that's, you come out with the words Achas, Bata, and Gif. So Ani Chas Aleim Mipnei Shabatu Begif. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, right, I pity on them because they have kicked away adultery. They have kicked away Arayas and the Katz, and then with the next 3, the next sign is the Katz. Dakim Haim, Kainim Haim, Tzadikim Haim. And therefore, these people, they're innocent, they stand up straight, and they're Tzadikim. And Halak, and therefore you, Satan, don't touch them. They're not yours. These people, these Jews, belong to me. And then the discussion first on says, Omar Zan Shes. So Omar Gehenim Lefanim, Rebbeinu Shalom, so Gehenim says back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? Rebbeinu Shalom, Mari Zeinuni, right? This is words from Marzan Shes, right? Mari Zeinuni Mizaro Shel Shes, right? Give me over all the descendants of Shes. Let me take them, right? Everybody, whether the person, they're Ovid of Chavim or not, some are low. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says that. Now we're going to the first letter and to the Lamed, right? Which is, I guess, the 12th letter, right? I think 12th letter, 10, 11, 12th, right? So Al, then the each one that follows it, the Beis and the Mem, Gimel, Nun. So Al Bam Gan Das. So Lehechan Olechem Legan Hadas. So he says, where am I going to take him? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says back to the Son, I'm going to take them to Legan Hadas, right? To Gan Eden. And Hey Vav. So Amar Gan HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Gehenim says back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Rebbeinu Shalom. Ayef Anoichi. Right? He says, I'm tired. Just give them to me. Right? Let me take them. Zatz Chak. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says back, no, Halu Zaro Shel Yitzchak. They belong to Yitzchak and Tar, Yash, and Kat. So Ter Yesh, Kitas Shel of Chavim. He says, you know what? You don't need the Jews. I have many, many groups of Chavim that you can go ahead and have, but just do not touch the Zaro Shel Yitzchak. Fine. So that was the end of the darshaning of the different letters of the order, right? Of different, why the order and the proximity of letters to one another, and of these discussions that were all brought down from the Dardaki during the days of Yeshua and Levi. 5. Naya Mishnah. So Mishnah says to the top of Kuf Daled on Beis, Mishnah says, HaKoisev Shtei Oisiyos Be'elam Echad. One who goes ahead and writes 2 Oisiyos, 2 letters, but one in one moment of unawareness, right? He's not aware that he's doing an Avera. Remember, if a person becomes, when a person is Chayiv, right, he has to be unaware that he's doing the Avera. He has, all of a sudden becomes aware halfway through. So that was Machlekes, whether it is the idea is Machalik or not. But over here, so a person writes 2 letters with one moment awareness. Chayiv, classic, he is Chayiv, right? Nothing nothing arguable about that statement. Now, Kasav b'dio b'sam b'sikra b'koimos v'kankantum b'chol davar shurayim. If the person goes ahead and he writes it with these different materials or different types of inks that the Gemara will explain, right? Whether black ink or samasikra is like yellowish or red or like black, right? Sulfate. B'chol davar shurayim. Anything that is permanent, then anything will leave a mark. Al shnei kaisle zaviyos. Whether it's on 2 walls by a corner, right? You write 2 walls by a corner, and you write whatever it is, shame, right? Shin, mem, right? You write that in the corner of Al Shem Levi, Pinkas, or you have basically 2 sheets of a ledger that are read next to one another. So basically the 2 letters are read together as a word. Hey, Nahagi Zem Zed, and therefore they're read together. Chayiv, such a person is Chayiv in such a case. Chayiv al B'saro, Chayiv, one who goes ahead and writes on his skin, he is Chayiv. Hamasartet al B'saro, a person goes ahead and he goes ahead and makes scratches on his flesh also with a type of like type thing. Rabbi Eliezer mechayev chatas v'chavim peichim. Rabbi Eliezer says you're chayev chatas for writing, and Chachamim say you're pater. Kasav b'mashkin. However, if he writes with some sort of juices, something that will go away after a while, or meperos or fruit juices, be'avik drachim, or the dust from the road. Be'avek haseifrim, or I guess the dust or left over from the seifrim who were working. Then b'chol davar she'ein mischayim, and anything that does not last is not permanent. Pater, such a person is pater. Now, if he does it liachar yodo, with the back of his hand, or beraglo of his foot, the feet with his mouth, marfeko with his elbow, kasavais achas al ksav, or he writes, let's say, 1 letter, and he writes next to a word. So, in other words, let's say there's a word that's missing a letter. Right, and he writes that letter at the end. Right, he wants to write the word Shmuel, and it says Shmuel without the lamed at the end. He comes in and writes 1 letter. He writes a lamed, at the end of the word. So kasav, excuse me. So ksav al gabi ksav. But what about ksav al gabi ksav? He writes on top of. In other words, he basically goes ahead and writes upon other writing. So in other words, there was a word there before, and he goes ahead and he traces the word. Ksav al gabi ksav. All these cases we're going to assume we're going to go to halacha. One who goes ahead and intends to write a ches. Now, the way to write basically a ches is basically to draw or to write two zayins that are connected, right? Connected on top, and it looks together. If it's actually you erase, you'll see on a ches, you'll notice there's actually two zayins. So one who goes ahead and intends to write a ches, but he doesn't connect the two dots and the lines on top. And now it looks like he wrote the word zuz, right, to move, because of Beizanim. Okay, but he didn't have the intention to write two letters. He only intention to write one letter. Or kasav. Achas ba'aretz v'achas b'kora. Let's say he writes one on the ground and one on the beam on top. Or kasav al beis kaisei abayis. Or two walls in the house that are not next to one another. Or al shnei davi pikasim ve'ein nedim zemzeh. Or two pages of a ledger that are not read with one another. All of these cases that we just mentioned, one is pater. And kasav ais achas a no shrikun. If one goes ahead and he writes one letter no shrikun, if he writes it, in other words, that a symbol, in other words, he writes, let's say, an aleph with a little dash on top, that means, Amar or whatever it is, but or instead of writing Rebbe, he just writes like a resh with a little, dash, so a person knows it means Rebbe, right? Such a case, Rabbi Shimon Meseir Mechayiv, he says you're chayiv because you basically
with a strechel.
A strechel. Had a lot of strechels yesterday. So he had a strechel. So Natrikun Rabbi Shimon Meseir Mechayiv, he says you're chayiv because he wrote a word, an abbreviated word, and Chachamim Paichin, Chachamim say you are pater in such a case because the Lamaisa all you wrote was one letter. So let's see the Gemara we mentioned. If you write anything with anything permanent, such a case, one is chayiv for writing permanent because it lasts, and something that lasts, one is chayiv for. So diusa. Now we're explaining. So dio is ink. It's diusa. It's used by the sefer, right? Sama is paint, right? A type of paint. Rashi says some sort of yellow paint, right? Sikra is a red paint. Sikra, all right. So that is Sikra Maraba Barachana. Sikrasa Shema, it's called Sikrasa. And Kumos is Koma, it's type of gum that also sort of like a blackish and Kantum Amar Rabbi Shmuel Charsa Dush Kape, right? This is also known as something which is blackening for like shoe polish. So all these blacks or all these colors are permanent, and therefore one will be chayiv. The whole davar shu reishim. Then the Mishnah says anything that is reishim. So lasuyamai. Anytime it says a chol davar, usually comes to include something. So lasuyamai. So lasuyay had the time that when you taught Rabbi Chanina kasav b'mei taria b'afza, one who uses like a gallnut juice or something else that normally even though it comes from these gallnuts, nevertheless since it lasts, so therefore, or for dirty rainwater, which will also last kosher. Therefore, that is kosher. That is used to use by a case of gittin because it lasts. It doesn't disappear. So too, since it lasts, one would be chayiv for using it on Shabbos. And Tani Rav Chia kasu be'ever. One uses a lead of a shachar, of a shichor, kosher. One uses lead or any other of these blackening or charcoal. Right, all these things are something that is permanent, and therefore one would be chayiv in all these cases. And I guess over there, right, when it says kosher, it was referring to using it for gittin. Now, hamasar del basar, one who goes and scratches out his flesh, says Tanya, we learn in the Brisa, Amar Len, Rabbi Eliezer, Chamim, Aloi ben Stada Haitzik Kshafim Mitzrayim Besrita Shal Basara. So Ben Stada, he was in, I guess, Mitzrayim, and he left Mitzrayim with a bunch of like black magic and how to do it, and he basically wrote it into his skin. So you see that writing into the skin is something which is done, and therefore one should be chai for writing on one's flesh. So the guy was deranged, he was crazy. Therefore you can't bring a raya from this guy because he was a shait, he was a crazy person. So kasav isachas some one who writes one letter next to basically another word, and therefore to give meaning to it, samantana and yurichai, samantana marava barafuna. Right? So he holds that we said if you do one, then really you're pater. But now like Rabbi Eliezer holds actually you're chayiv right? Because Rabbi Eliezer holds that even if you go ahead and you add one thread to weaving, then you're chayiv for that. Why is that? Because you added something that, even that adds to like a full beged. So to over here, you write one legged to a word, right? You're right. You're playing whatever, it's like in Scrabble, right? You add the S, it's like you wrote the whole word, right? So over here, you add one letter, it's like you just made a whole word. Therefore, you're pater. But according to Rabbi Eliezer, you're in such a case you be chayiv. Therefore, our Mishnah is not like Rabbi Eliezer. And ksav al gabe ksav. And what about if you trace over other writings? Samantana, who's the author of Mishnah? It's not like the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. The Tanya of the Nebraisa Haresh Hayat Tzarich Lichtav Hashem. Okay, he had a sofer who was writing Safros, and he meant to go ahead and write the Shem Hashem. Then Iskabin Lichtav Yehuda, and then he was right. He wasn't paying attention, and then the place was supposed to be Yud Kei Vav Kei, and he thought he had to write the word Yehuda. Okay, Vita Lohiti Dalad, and he wrote Yehuda without the Dalad, which is Yud Kei Vav Kei, right? So in other words, he actually accidentally wrote the correct word. He wrote the Shem Hashem without Kavana. So what does he do now? Because he didn't write it with Kavana. He didn't write it with the intention of writing Shem Hashem. So therefore, it doesn't really count. So what does he do? So Mavilov Kulmos and Mekacha Div Rabbi Yehuda says Rabbi Yehuda, you can go ahead and trace it. If you trace it, it's like you rewrote it. No, this is not considered to be something which is praiseworthy. This is not the right way to do it. So what do you see according to Rabbi Yehuda? Rabbi Yehuda holds if you trace on something, it's like you wrote it again. So therefore, according to Rabbi Yehuda, if you trace on something on Shabbos, you should be chayiv. Where our mission says pater, therefore our mission is not like Rabbi Yehuda. And Tana kasav acha ois achas v'shlima lesefer. One goes ahead and writes one letter, and he finishes the sefer as one last letter. But it was mashim. It finishes everything. Or agur chut echad. He weaves one thread. V'yishlim lebeged. He completes the beged, the clothing. Chayiv. He is chayiv for that. So Mantana, who's the author of that? Samarava bar Rav Huna, Rabbi Eliezer. He must be Rabbi Eliezer. Damar achas al ari chayiv. Who holds that even one thread in something which is woven, the last thread is chayiv. And Rav Ashi Amar afilu tema Rabban. He gave say Rabbanan lahashlim shani, right? To go ahead and finish the entire sefer by writing one letter. So therefore, since that's considered to be a chashav ksiva, that is a ksiva that one would be chayiv for doing on Shabbos. And Amar Rabbi Ami kasav isachas b'tveria v'achas b'tzipore chayiv. If you write one letter in Tveria and somehow you write one letter in Tzipori on the same Shabbos, right, or the same time, not the same time, but he went from one to the other. I guess maybe maybe possibly 2 different weeks. He just was unaware in between, so maybe it was the same, right? So he wrote 2 letters. He is chayiv. He's chayiv for writing a word. So Gemara says chayiv ksivi. So this is really writing. You're lacking close proximity. In other words, the 2 letters I wrote, right, shin and mem. I want to write the word name, right, shin. And I wrote shin in one town and mem in another town. So really, I wrote a word. The letters are very far from each other. I just have to bring the letters close to one another. So I did a writing. It's lacking kriva. It's lacking closeness, but it is a word. What do you mean? Our Mishnah says, if I write it on the floor and the ceiling, or 2 walls that are next to one another, or 2 pages, right, in a ledger that are not next to one another, you're pater. Why are you pater? Because I didn't write a word. I wrote 1 letter here, 1 letter there. So why is Tzipuri and Tveria different? So my answer is, Hasa mechusar maisa de kriva. Over there is just lacking maisa de kriva. All you're lacking is distance. If it wasn't for the distance, it would be okay. Hacha lo mechusar maisa de kriva. Over here, so in our case, right, there is nothing that's missing, right? As Rashi says, right, that the difference over there was talking about all you need to do is bring the 2 of them together, right? And you bring the 2 of them together. So in other words, they're let's say on the edge of a board, you have to bring them together as is fine. But in our case, when you on 2 different walls, in order to do it, you need a maisa, let's say, of cutting, all right, of removing it, right, and therefore, right, if you have to go ahead and do a maisa, let's say cutting it out of the wall to put it together, therefore that's a problem. The other thing, I wrote 2 different pieces of paper. So 2 different pieces of paper, I could just put them together and read it, right? Just one happens to be 10 miles away from each other, but it's still all together. As opposed to a wall, right, you can't bring a wall together, right? You have to literally, cut it out in order to read it together. So since you have to do a maisa, right, of not just bring them together, but more of a ma'isa, let's say cutting them out in order to bring them together. Therefore, that would not be considered to be a word because it's lacking not only distance, but it's also lacking some sort of detachment from where it was written. And Tana higia oisachas. If someone goes ahead and he fixes a letter, he's chayiv. So hashta kosav oisachas pater higia oisachas chayiv. I understand if you write a letter, right? If I write a letter from scratch on pater, because you need. We said the minimum amount is 2 letters. So why, if I fix 1 letter, is that considered to be writing? Maybe the guy fixes the top of a ches, right? We said he fixes the top of a ches. All of a sudden, he just created 2 zayins, right? He makes 2 zayins. And Rabbi Amar right? When he took the different parts of the dalet, right? The dalet is really like sort of like squarish, but if you round it off, it's like a reish, and therefore, right? So since he took it, something which is very small, and he was masaking a sefer, right? He fixed it. And in other words, that a person, let's say, it was a sefer Torah, whatever it was, he has to go ahead and fix it. Since he fixes it, that's considered to be hashlama, and therefore it's a bigger ma'isa, like we said before, that a person is mashlim, suddenly a person who completes a sefer, even if it was 1 letter, it would be considered writing. And finally, one more line. Tana diskavin lichlav azachas. The person intends to write 1 letter. V'alu biyado shtayim chayiv. It turns out it was 2. Let's say he wrote a ches, but he didn't connect the top, and therefore it's 2 zayins. He is chayiv. Obviously pater. Like kasha, had bayizuni, had bayizuni. In one of the case of really he wanted the zayins. If he wanted the 2 zayins and he wrote a ches without intending to do, but really it was the zayin as he wanted, then he would be chayiv. But if he did not want the 2 zayins, just wanted a ches, then he would be pater. And we'll stop here at the 2 dots. Everyone have a wonderful day and stay safe. Shkoyach.